What's up, guys? Welcome to Unapologetic with Chet and Duffy right here on Fans Only Sports Network. I am your host, Chet, and of course, joining me is my counterpart, Duffy, right there on the right side of your screen. Duffy, how we doing today, my man?
Been great, man. I mean, I'm a little bit sad. The NFL season is officially over, which sucks, but
Mm-hmm.
it's all about the finale. New season upon us. The 23 campaign officially starting next month. So, but at the end of the day, I mean, I'm gonna miss this a lot, and Chet, miss our good in season talks, and
Yeah.
especially the fact that I beat you this season.
Yeah. I mean, let me see. I didn't even get a chance to calculate, the win-loss percentages and everything. But yeah, Duffy ended up walking away with the win on locks and upset picks for the second straight year in a row. It was a good competition as always. It came down to the wire towards the end of things, but got to give it to you, man. He called the games exactly the way they needed to, and you're the champ once again.
2 years in a row. Feels good to be back and on top, as I usually am against you.
Oh yeah, yep. Here we go with that.
I just tried saving 4 Derek Carr pictures, but they're all web Ps and they can't get on this, so I'm pretty pissed off. But at the end of the
You'll
day,
find them.
I mean, it feels good to be back on top against you, especially, a longtime friend like you, Chet.
Yeah.
And I think I deserved it. I had better picks than you. You all had square picks this year, so
Yep.
it kind of makes sense that you lost to me again.
Sure.
But
Sure.
we had a great year. We had a lot of fun doing it. So very excited. Very excited for next year. And this season ending out with a bang, though. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
With Super Bowl 57 happening
Yeah.
on Sunday.
Yep. So, of course, as we said, the NFL season is officially over, followed from last Sunday, Super Bowl 57 between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. It was a great game. Final score of the game, 38-35. The Chiefs come out on top with the win, a game-winning field goal. We didn't get a chance to go looking back in the footage, but I believe I was 1 point off of my score prediction to being 100% correct. I'll take 95%, though. That was very close.
I think you got it, though. I think you literally said 28-24, but sorry, 38-35, excuse me, but we're not completely sure, but
Yeah,
Chet,
we'll go and look back
I was making
at some
fun of
point.
Chet. I was making fun of Chet for loving the over so much, and he proved me wrong.
Exactly.
That was an over and a half on Sunday,
Mm-hmm.
and arguably Chet's best pick of the entire season. So
Hands down, has to be. I mean, that was the closest I've ever gotten on a score prediction. I mean, I certainly have had some pretty good ones in the past, but this one definitely has to take the cake. Maybe it proves I know what I'm talking about in some way. But anyways, what was that?
it sure does.
But anyways, we'll take a look at the way this game played out. Of course, Eagles went into the half up 24-14, and the Chiefs at some points, they looked pretty flat out there. They really did. The offense was just struggling in the first half to really move the ball, but something that you had to commend this offensive line, including going into the second half, no sacks were allowed on Patrick Mahomes in this game at all. Only 1 sack in the whole game, and it was just Jalen Hurts running out of bounds, which is pretty crazy to say that the defensive lines, being as tough and formidable as they were, they didn't even give up a single. They didn't give or basically commit a single sack in this game, a true sack, if you may. And that was something crazy to really know.
Yeah, I mean, these D lines, very ferocious all year, especially the Eagles. I mean, coming in the game, I think it was 0 sacks they had in the entire game, which is very surprising. I had a bet that was over 5.5 total sacks.
Wow.
In the bottom, I'll tell you that. But a lot of it was based on what the Eagles could do. And we saw the Chiefs with Mahomes, being a little bit limited in the AFC Championship, on basically a leg and a half, one leg, if you want to say that.
Yeah.
Looked very healthy on Sunday. Got a little bit injured in the first half, but whatever they put in his ankle at halftime really worked out. I'll tell you that. But that Chiefs O-line, the unsung hero of the game to allow 0 sacks to that defensive line, the Eagles, that front seven, the most ferocious in football today. I mean, their performance cannot go unnoticed. I'll tell you that. I mean, this is very impressive by the Chiefs to win this game. Not just to win this game, but the way that they did it. I mean, it's an absolute shootout, as a lot of people expected, including yourself, Chet. 38-35. A A lot of points on the board. And that do a lot with the protection Mahomes had. I mean, on a leg and a half, came out there, threw for $182, 3 touchdown passes, no interceptions. And that second half from the Chiefs was marvelous. They scored on all 4 of their drives. It was a big time of possession game, like I predicted, but I definitely thought it'd be lower scoring in a way. However, these two squads, like a track meet, back and forth, back and forth. The Birds with a 10-point lead at halftime. Mahomes now with 2 10-point comebacks in Super Bowl wins, which is unbelievable. Because before Brady, there were 0, or there was 1. There was 1, but it was in the first quarter of Super Bowl 22 with Doug Williams against the Broncos. But Mahomes, I mean, his 2 Super Bowl wins have been marvelous. They've been Mahomes' magic and a half. And Harrison Butker, I'll tell you this, the most underrated clutch kicker in NFL history. And that's facts. I mean, he hit the game winner he hit the game tire against the Patriots 4 years ago in the playoffs. He hits the game tire against Buffalo, the buzzer last year in the divisional round. Hits the game winner in the AFC Championship this year. It's the game winner in the Super Bowl this year. I mean, very clutch, can't go underrated. We might see him in the Hall of Fame one day if he keeps this up. However, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Andy Reid all solidified their Hall of Fame legacies on Sunday. We got Andy Reid with 2 rings now. All these guys with 2 rings now. Mahomes, 2 Super Bowl MVPs, 2 league MVPs at age 27. This is unbelievable.
And if you look at the stats right now, in accordance to Tom Brady's career statistics and, of course, Patrick Mahomes' statistics, at 27, Brady had 2 Super Bowls, but he didn't have 2 league MVPs. He also had he didn't have 3. And then also only had he was just under 20,000 passing yards. Mahomes is well over 20,000 passing yards at this point in his career, especially this season after dropping over 5,000 in a year where you and we have to take credit for this too, because in the Super Bowl parade, Mahomes even said many people in the West looked at us and said, this is a rebuilding year for them. And the thing is, we kind of said that.
That was kind of a hyperbolic. I mean,
it was a little hyperbolic, yes.
Their victory parade was so crazy. They're like, you guys doubted us. Like, dude, who doubted the Chiefs? Like, actually, like, who genuinely thought they wouldn't win 11, 12 games? No one.
Yeah, no one.
Mahomes, 192 passing touchdowns in 5 seasons, bro. He is averaging 48 touchdown passes a season. I mean, 38 a season. This is unbelievable what we see from Mahomes. Back to your point though. They said all that crap in the parade. So does every champ.
Yeah.
I mean, no one really thought the Chiefs weren't going to be good this year. I mean, in their defense, many people had the Chargers or Broncos.
Or even the Raiders.
Or even Raiders contest them in the division this year, but come on. They're the Chiefs. And it just shows how great they are. I mean, this is a year where they're really tested, to be the best they could be with such a stacked division, or what it seemed like earlier in the year. But Kansas City, 14 wins on the season, 14-3. They lost a Mickey Mouse game to the Colts, which was kind of rigged. They lost to Buffalo with a minute to go. Their other loss was to Cincinnati by 3 points. They lost 3 games all year by a combined 10 points. I mean, this team, look at one of those teams. This is one of the greatest all-time Super Bowl champions we may have ever seen.
Yeah.
I think we might have better insight as the years go on as to how good this team was. I look back in hindsight and say, wow, that 22 Chiefs team was legit. Because, all year we were looking at Buffalo, Cincinnati being like they could beat the Chiefs in the playoffs. And since he almost did, and, to be honest, they almost did, give them credit where it's due. But KC, fighting adversity week in, week out, winning close games, and with Mahomes in crunch time, you can't bet against him. He's unbettable against.
Yeah.
He's the best quarterback of this generation. He's the best in the league right now. And he's the top 5 quarterback ever. I'm going to say it. And I said it the other week when it was me, you, and Diggity Day on the pod. I said if Mahomes wins this game, he's top 5. And now, 2 MVPs, like I said, I said all this before, but 2 MVPs, 2 Super Bowls, 2 Super Bowl MVPs, Offensive Player of the Year. What else does he have? 5 Pro Bowls, 3 All Pros. This is in 5 years.
Yeah.
I mean, 38 touchdown passes a season. I mean, this is ridiculous what we're seeing from Mahomes. And he has an 80% winning percentage. He is 64-16 as a starter, 11-3 in the playoffs. This is unbelievable. He is literally the next Brady.
Yeah.
I know he's a lot more athletic, a lot more gifted than Brady per se. But ultimately, when it comes to accomplishments and how they can help their team win, he's up there with the greatest. He is. Any game with the Chiefs, if they're underdogs like they were in this game, dude, slam them. I had $70 on the Chiefs. 70. Like a lot of my props did lose. I had heads in the coin toss. A bunch of other stuff lost.
I called it tails right in the
I
beginning.
know you did. I know.
Tails never fails. Always remember that.
A lot of my I kind of broke even on the night. I think I was a little bit more profitable because of that $70 on the Chiefs. But dude, any game that the Chiefs win with this guy at quarterback, they have a chance to win.
It's
more
definitely
more than a chance to win. Let me tell you that.
It's definitely their trump card at the end of the day. This is the team that where when you look at the New England Patriots, when Tom Brady was the quarterback in his prime, everybody knew if Tom Brady's the quarterback of the New England Patriots, this team is playoff contending. Same thing goes for the Chiefs. Not even that, Super Bowl contending. That's just how legit this team is. This is the second New England Patriots, the next coming of the New England Patriots dynasty. The Chiefs are creating that right now. We're seeing it unfold right in front of us. This is just the beginning, obviously. It really started a couple of years ago now against that win over the San Francisco 49ers, and now it's brought us to here. They win their second Super Bowl in the span of 4 years. Mahomes is looking like one of the most elite, if not, like you just said, I agree at this point. He's a top 5 quarterback all time. He is. He's just proven that he is better than quarterbacks like Peyton Manning, like Brett Favre, like any of the names that I've ever stated before. He's better. He is, because Peyton Manning, as great as he was, he never won that many Super Bowls in that quick of time. Brady, same thing. Sure, he had those 2 back to back, and then 2 back to back after that, years apart. But if this team can maintain what it has now, we could see them win potentially multiple championships over the course of the next few years, because Mahomes is locked in on a 10-year deal that he is most likely never going to leave the Chiefs. He's 27 years old. That contract was signed when he was 24 or 25. He's going to be there till he's 35 playing. And at that rate, I still see him playing after that. This team is in prime position right now where they know they don't need Tyreek Hill. They shipped him off because they were like, hey, this guy wants too much money. We can't pay that. So we'll settle for less. And at the end of the day, the Patriots had to do the same thing with Randy Moss. And sure, Randy Moss was obviously in a decline in his career after the 2007 season. He was still a great receiver, but he wasn't as good as Tyreek Hill. He didn't have the athletic ability that Tyreek Hill had. Obviously, we're talking about here. He had the hands, absolutely, the route running. But Tyreek Hill, fantastic wide receiver. Proved that he's still a top 3 wideout, but the Chiefs proved him wrong by basically saying, hey, we're going to get rid of one of the league's best wideouts, and we're still going to win a Super Bowl. And they did just that 1 year after.
Very impressive. And Tyreek had a year or two. Got to give him a lot of credit. In my opinion, was definitely could have been Offensive Player of the Year. They gave it to Justin Jefferson instead, who's been phenomenal all year.
Yeah, I mean, he deserved it, honestly.
But we've said all this great stuff about the Chiefs, but I want to give a lot of credit to the Eagles. I mean, this is a team that we thought had a Mickey schedule all year, an easy schedule, easy road to the playoffs, Super Bowl, which was true to an extent for sure. But they hung in blow for blow with KC. Surely they got outscored 24-11 in the second half, which is never a good look.
No,
but they were in there, and for a long time, you thought the Birds were going to win that game, and I think if the Eagles do win that game, if James Bradbury doesn't hold, which I think was a bad call. I know Bradbury said it was a hold, but in the Super Bowl, I think it's a bad call. That was a terrible call, by the way, at the end of the game. It was not a good call by the refs. It wasn't the right call, debatably. But I'll tell you what, if the Eagles win that game, Jalen Hurts has a top 10 ever Super Bowl MVP performance. I mean, looking at a guy who had 300 yards and then 3 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah.
He had a great game. And if it was your first time watching football, I forget which pundit said it this week, but if it was your first time watching football, you could see no disparity between the guy in the green and the guy in the red and white on Sunday night. I mean, Jalen Hurts was phenomenal. And heading this year, I was wrong about him. I said he wasn't a true passer. He wasn't that good of a quarterback. He was a run first type of guy. He was a take a dunk type of guy. But then in year 2 of this system with Nick Sirianni, just absolutely shredded everyone. And the Super Bowl, he did the same thing. So
Yeah.
the boards, I mean, you saw the interviews after the game. Jason Kelsey, Bradbury, A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts. I mean, Nick Sirianni, they gave the Chiefs a lot of credit for sure. And this team will be back, I think, in the next few years. This is a team that's built for success. They're very deep on both sides of the ball. They might win a ring in a few years. You never know. So,
Yeah.
I give credit to Jalen Hurts. I mean, this is a guy who was leading the MVP race up until he got injured, basically. Went 14-1 as a starter in the regular season, 16-2 overall. And then had won the games of his life in the Super Bowl. And think about it, just 5 years ago, he got benched for Tua in the national championship in Alabama. Just 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Battling toe-to-toe with Mahomes in the Super Bowl. It's unbelievable what he's been able to do. Rebounds. This is a young, bright star. And, he's a very handsome dude as well. So he's going to be back. He's going to be back. He's going to be great. And, the first Super Bowl battle between 2 black quarterbacks, it was a top 5 ever, in my opinion. I think that's the top 5 Super Bowl. Probably top 6, maybe, if you want to stretch that far. I put 51 above it, 49,
Yeah.
And 42, perhaps. But, if that holding call doesn't happen at the end of the game with James Bradbury, I think this is undebatably a top 3 Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
And it just sucks that it ended like that. I mean, I know it was like technically the right call. I got a fucking sorry.
You got a cramp.
I got a Charlie horse.
Oh, those are great. Love those. But yeah, to kind of build off your point while Tim's going through a Charlie horse attack over here, I have to give the Eagles so much credit this year because obviously throughout our talk this year about the Philadelphia Eagles, my main point about them was always this: they're pretenders. They're going to be one and done in the postseason. This is a team that had the easiest schedule in football. The only reason they're here in the playoffs, the only reason why they're doing so well in the regular season is because they have an easy schedule. They're in a weak conference. They're easily the most talented roster amongst all. No wonder they're doing this good. Those excuses did not hold up to their performance on Sunday and those points that I just made because the Eagles proved me wrong. They really did. And Duffy, I have to agree. And I thought this that night. Jalen Hurts played above and beyond the expectations, finishing the night 27 for 38, 304 passing yards, a touchdown through the air, and then had 15 carries for 70 yards and 3 touchdowns. Every time, remember that a lot of times on plays, they would just go to a QB draw and Jalen Hurts would just take off. That was so many times in the first half and a bunch of times in the beginning of the second half. The Chiefs defense had no answer for it. Hurts was performing at a very high level, scored 3 touchdowns on the ground. He tied James White for 20 points. That's the most points scored by a player in the Super Bowl, and then rushed for 3 touchdowns. That's the most touchdowns rushed by a quarterback in a Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts breaking and tying Super Bowl records.
Oh, he broke that record. Sorry, I'm back now. I'm back.
Yeah. No, you're good. Hopefully that Charlie horse is long gone.
That definitely hit the spot. I'll tell you that. That hurt. Yeah, I'm back.
Sometimes when I have a Charlie horse, it hurts so bad I start laughing because I'm like, ow, 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 ow. Like it just gets obnoxious.
You're like Peter Griffin a little bit.
Yeah, I guess so. But bottom line, Hurts was throwing dimes all night. I mean, you saw the throw to Devonta Smith. You saw that end zone touchdown to A.J. Brown. He was painting the field like a canvas. And I'm sure the one thing that you could say probably that really set them back was I mean, the one thing we didn't even get to mention was the turf conditions. They were awful. That was the worst turf I've ever seen in my life. And the stadium paid over $850,000 to get it installed from sod farms in Arizona. And they washed it, they watered it, brought it outside every day to let it grow and trim it and everything. And the field looked like shit. People are falling all over the place the whole
Field
night.
was bad. I mean, those guys were hurting. A lot of guys have been down. You saw on the Jalen Hurts fumble that led to the scoop and score. He slipped on that play a little bit.
Yeah.
Those field conditions were awful, and there's no business for that in the biggest game in the sport. It's just
Yeah.
it was very unfortunate for sure in Arizona. I mean, we saw the last two Super Bowls they had, Giants, Pats, and Pats Seahawks. It wasn't really an issue, but this Sunday, I mean, it was bad. It was
awful.
horrendous, the field. It really was like, you trying to injure these guys? You trying to ruin some contracts right now? I mean, it was tough. It was very
For
tough.
real. And I think one of the big things that the Chiefs were able to achieve in this game was not only did the Eagles have to rely so much on Jalen Hurts' legs, the defense was able to shut down running backs such as Kenneth Gainwell, Miles Sanders, Boston Scott. One of the things that really surprised me is this one was the total absence of Miles Sanders. Ever since that very first carry in the game, when he fumbled it out of bounds, we didn't see him come out on the field until the second half. And I think that's just because they were like, you fumbled it on the first play. There's no way we're going to let you do that again, because that is just unacceptable. First play in the Super Bowl, he fumbled the ball. Sure, it went out of bounds, but that's a playable ball. That's a very playable ball. You can't risk giving the ball away that early in the game, especially with the running back that may have butterfingers for the whole game.
He was probably just nervous,
It's the nerves. It's the Super Bowl. It's the first time. And I wouldn't have even expected the Eagles to be here where they are. But the thing is, you look at Jalen Hurts, kind of to bring it all the way back around. Jalen Hurts. Oh, well, Duffy just left. So Jalen Hurts, essentially. Oh, where was I even going with this? There he is. What happened? You just leave?
You were just lagging so bad on my computer. I just refreshed my page.
That's fair. Anyways, to kind of bring it back around the horn to Jalen Hurts, this is a guy, like you said, got benched in the national championship for Tua Tagovailoa. You look at the careers of Tua Tagovailoa, Mac Jones, and Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is the only one out of the three who's made it to the Super Bowl now. One of the 2 years in a row he's made it to the postseason. The other two have not done that. That's something to say. This guy's set up in the perfect success. He really proved last night that not only is he he proved last night, he's one of the best quarterbacks in football right now, hands down.
Sure.
To me, I think we could see the sky's the limit at this point for Jalen Hurts. With that performance he put on in Super Bowl 57, unbelievable. The Eagles, they played the best they could. And to kind of bring it back to the press conference, despite the holding call and everything, to be honest, was it a bad call? Kinda. But Bradbury even admitted in the interview, I held him. I grabbed his jersey.
He was trying to be humble, though.
What's that?
He was trying to be humble, though, let's be honest. That was a bad call. For the biggest stage in football, that's a bad call. That was barely a tug. And Juju Smith-Schuster wanted to run his mouth on Twitter yesterday. That was crazy.
Yeah, it was just... It was a lot to kind of take in. And it's nice that the Eagles were humble at the end of this one. They weren't being sore losers. They were owning up. We lost, and we got to give the Chiefs credit. I like that sportsmanship, because at the end of the day, even Jalen Hurts said, you got to battle the adversity. And that's what this is. The Eagles are going to go into this offseason, really take it all in, because their season this year was a great success. The only thing that you could say that they didn't get in the end was the Lombardi Trophy. The Chiefs are the victors of the league. You got to give the Chiefs credit from where they came from to where they are now. And we'll see Philly back in the dance again. They are not going to go down easy. I think next year we'll definitely see them potentially back on the conference championship all over again. The NFC is weak right now, but hey, you got teams coming back like the Niners again. I'm sure the Rams will be a lot better and more hungrier next year, considering they'll be back to full health. No more Tom Brady, so the Bucs are going to be a lot different. It's going to be a lot of change-ups in the NFC and in the league. The offseason always has a bonanza going on. But regardless, to kind of wrap it all up, this was definitely one of the very few Super Bowls in the recent years that I could say was probably one of the best I've seen in a long time. It just had every moment that you could truly ask for. It was just the takeaways, the scores, the plays, everything. It was just everything you could have asked for in a Super Bowl. It was great. It was great all around. And the Chiefs, at the end of the day, they deserve this. They took all the doubt that people had in terms of, hey, Tyreek Hill's gone. That's a major weapon to this offense. There's a lot of differences going on here. But at the end of the day, Duffy, I do have to agree with what you said earlier. If you doubted them, you're just a moron. Like, come on. Like, it's the Chiefs. You got Andy Reid. You got Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. What more do you need to make a Super Bowl run?
Nothing. And Chiefs put on full display Sunday. They did it. They won the game. And they did it in Chiefs fashion in a high-scoring game, and they put up the points that they needed to. I mean, the defense definitely lacked, especially in that first half. The Chiefs defense was looking rough, but second half they came in big. Especially can't go without mentioning that big punt return from Kadarius Toney to give him basically a first and goal, I believe it was at the 6-7 yard line. But it was a team effort for sure. I mean, Mahomes won MVP, but both sides of the ball and all three sides did their job in this one, especially in that last 30 minutes of game time. And KC deserved it, man. And Andy Reid put on a show game playing this one with some great plays. We had those 2 touchdowns from Toney and Sky Moore, basically the same play, a little zig route and get to the outside. And the same thing, both times, different sides of the ball, both times wide open. So just a lot of film study, a lot of good game planning from KC and Andy Reid and all them boys, Bieniemy and them. So they deserve this win. And Philadelphia, I think they'll be back. This is a young team. It's going to be built for the future. So I'm not worried about them, but KC, and this is the next dynasty in pro football. So watch out.
Yeah, that's definitely a good way to put it. Just so you know, your mic's a little like robot-y. I don't like robot. You sound like a robot almost. I don't know if it's your internet because you are lagging a bit.
Oh my gosh. Can you hear me now though?
Oh, I can hear you. It's just you sound like it's audible. I can understand what you're saying. It just sounds.
I'm gonna relocate.
All right. So
let's go with Derek Carr and Lamar.
Yeah, but basically to tie it all up, Super Bowl 57. It was an unbelievable performance by both these teams, and it ended a very thrilling result. It wasn't the greatest result in terms of the holding call, but at the end of the day, it was a great Super Bowl, and it was one to remember for the ages. And Chiefs are the 2022 NFL season champs. They can hoist the Lombardi and celebrate their 3rd Super Bowl in franchise history. Definitely something for them to remember for the rest of the time. So now we take it to the offseason officially, as the offseason is very much underway. Of course, the new league year does not start until March, so there's definitely going to be some time in between before that happens, before the new league year is officially rung in a few weeks. But as of right now, there's already talks about Derek Carr and Lamar Jackson. Of course, the whole Derek Carr situation, that's been a problem since week 16. The Raiders are all said and done with him. At this point, they've
Can you hear me better now, though?
You're still, like, echoey.
I'm going to refresh again.
All right. So, essentially, the Raiders gave up on this project with Derek Carr. And it's disappointing because he's been a very good quarterback for this unit. Obviously, including times this season, he's just been too inconsistent. And I don't know if it's because of the coaching system or what have you, but for some reason, it's just not working out. And the Raiders are all said and done with him. But at this point, Derek Carr has told, the team that even if they were to trade him, he would not accept a trade. So he wants to test the waters. He wants to be paid for what he believes he's owed. So Derek Carr, he will be released at the start of the new league year, and he will be a free agent out on the market for many teams to look at. And there's a lot of potential landing spots for this guy to land. Of course, one of them being the New York Jets, another being the New Orleans Saints, and then Tennessee Titans. These are teams that need quarterbacks. Even the Carolina Panthers could have a say in terms of having Derek Carr come to them. But Derek Carr has had a very solid NFL career. just not a great one in terms of he hasn't been able to really nail it down in the postseason. He had his first postseason appearance last year. It ended up falling flat in Cincinnati in a game that they could have easily won. Not easily, but they could have taken the chance to win the game, and they missed it. And then, of course, this year, the team looked a lot better offensively than it did last year, and they still fell flat in their face. And we're one of the worst teams in the AFC West. So for Derek Carr, this is tough growing pains for him, being late in his career, the midway to late, I'd say. And there's just a lot of thoughts behind it. I personally feel bad for him because I would have loved to see him as a Raider for the rest of his career and be a Raiders legend, but it's just not going to go that way.
Can you hear me now, though?
I can hear you, yeah.
I mean, Derek Carr, I've always said he was overrated. I don't think he deserved that big, fat contract the Raiders gave him a few years back by any means.
Yeah.
A lot of guaranteed money, triple-digit guaranteed money. No, thank you for Derek Carr. This is a guy who, like you said, he's on the Raiders. He could have been better in a different system, but you can say that about most NFL quarterbacks, But the thing with Derek Carr is that he just couldn't win big games, and he still can't. He's beaten the Chiefs, two times maybe in the last 7 years. Made one playoff appearance in his career. I mean, 11-2 playoff berths, but he was injured for one of them. Only one playoff start, and lost to Cincinnati. And this is a guy where I think it's a situation where the Raiders should have moved on from Derek Carr, especially after 9 seasons. You haven't won a single playoff game. Yeah, they had to move on from this guy. And it hurts to say because Derek Carr is a great guy, great faithful Christian boy from California, crying in post-game press conferences here and there. But the fact of the matter is that this is a business. And I think Derek Carr is one of those guys where in a city like Oakland or Vegas, he wasn't going to win you games. No big games were going to be won by the Raiders. I know a lot of it goes back to the Davises, the late Al Davis and now Mark Davis running the troops for the last dozen years or so. The thing is like Derek Carr wasn't going to be the guy, and he really never was. He's been an average quarterback really the last 6 seasons, slightly above average, I would say. And I think it was time. And I'm glad the Raiders did what they did because I think he's supremely overrated. I like Derek Carr as a dude. I used to like him a lot as a player too when he was having the MVP caliber year in 2016. But the fact of the matter is that this is a team that's going to be drafting in the top 10 this year, the Raiders, or at least top 11. And, there's a lot of good quarterbacks on the board this year in the draft. And I think for any year for them to do this, it may have been this year, potentially next year if they really wanted to suck that bad. But, when they put Jarrett Stidham in the game in Week 17 against the Niners, he looked sharp. He looked better than Carr looked all season. So a lot of it speaks about Carr. He's a Raiders legend regardless. Has pretty much every major passing record for the Raiders.
Yeah.
217 touchdowns, just 99 picks in 9 years, and over 35,000 yards, which is a lot of yards, for only 9 years. It's almost 4,000 yards a season. So he's been a good quarterback, but it's also because of the day and age we live in. And we haven't considered Derek Carr elite, in 6 or 7 years since that 1 year he had in 2016. So it was due. It was due time. There's a lot of talk about him going to the Saints with Dennis Allen, the former Raiders head coach, before Derek Carr got there. So I'm interested to see how that works out. His free agency, I think he's gonna be. But Derek Carr's in a position now where he got cut after 9 years as a starter. He got cut today officially, and now he's in a position where he's going to be a bridge quarterback the rest of his career. A guy like Tyrod Taylor, a guy you start when you're trying to find the guy who's up next. And I think he'll have to settle in that and, be content with it. He hasn't made his last NFL start by any means. He'll start more games. Will he be a franchise guy again? Will he get another triple-digit contract? No, absolutely not. This is the guy right now who's already 31. I know 31 is not that old for a quarterback, but for a guy like Derek Carr, who has no playoff wins, I think his bubble is officially going to burst, and his window, as the Raiders realize, coming to a big thin close. And
Yeah.
it was the right move for Oakland Vegas right there to be like, who's up next? I think it was a little bit overdue,
Yeah.
honestly, because he has. I mean, before last year, they had made the playoff. They'd missed the playoffs 4 years in a row
Yeah.
in a division that obviously had Mahomes in it, but a conference looking at wild card teams the last 4 or 5 years, looking at teams like the Titans, teams like the Bills before Josh Allen was really good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, teams like I'm trying to think of someone else. I don't know, the Chargers in 2018. Um, some random team, maybe like Jacksonville in 17, but they won the division, so that's out of the loop. Anyways, or Cleveland Browns too in 2020. That's a good one. Raiders, they had a lot of chances the last 4 years, 5 years, and they couldn't win big games, especially big division games. They won for the first time in Arrowhead after like 8 years last year. So it was due, and I think Derek Carr's going to find a new home. He definitely will. He'll be a bridge quarterback. He'll be a guy that you start while you're trying to find the next dude who's up next. But I think his days as a starter are mostly over.
Yeah. For the most part, it's definitely disappointing
But
because
you
he
never
is.
know because the Saints started Andy Dalton for like 15 games this year. So who
Yeah.
knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean,
Though that's one of the 4 teams that I just mentioned that are in the market currently for a quarterback. And obviously, we'll continue to project and predict as time goes on. We'll probably just leave it up until obviously more news starts to circulate on that right now. But Derek Carr in a position to turn the page, start a new chapter in his career potentially, or he may just fall flat on his face like many, many quarterbacks do in this league that is not forgiving to that position, to players who can't maintain the talent that they bring to the table. And the Raiders saw that this season and decided it is time to part ways. So Derek Carr has forced the Raiders' hand to release him, and that will come very soon, of course, as the new league year will be rung in very soon. And now we look at another quarterback really quick before we end the show. Lamar Jackson. This is a guy who was drafted to the Baltimore Ravens right out of the gate. An amazing quarterback. One of the most versatile, mobile QBs that we have ever seen take the field. And this was a guy who was successful at bringing his team to the postseason. Could they make it to the next level? Unfortunately, no, they couldn't. This was a team that definitely has a lot of chances, has had the potential with Lamar Jackson in that offense. However, the last 2 seasons have resulted in the Ravens losing Lamar in the second half of the year and then just not having him start the rest of the season. They missed the postseason. This year they made it, just barely, but there's already talks about this offseason that the Ravens are preparing to not have Lamar Jackson, period, and go ahead with Tyler Huntley as a starter and potentially draft a quarterback. That's the position that the franchise is in right now because Lamar, he wants to get paid. Does he deserve it? I think so. I think he deserves a payday. He's a guy who's literally proven himself. He is one of the top 5 quarterbacks in football when he's healthy. He is just that good of a player. But the fact of the matter is, you look at this offense. No more Hollywood Brown, Devin Duvernay, and Rashad Bateman. They're not the answers. They're not number ones. I'm sorry. If anything, these guys are number 3 guys. These are not guys that are your top wideouts to go to. And then the only other person he has to throw on the field, and it's always been everybody's check down, Mark Andrews. And Mark Andrews can't always be there to make the plays. The fact of the matter is this offense has no weapons besides its run game in Lamar Jackson, and then Gus Edwards, and then, of course, J.K. Dobbins when they're healthy. And that's hard to come by nowadays. So Jackson's in a position where he's like, I'm worth. I know my value. It's either you pay me or I walk. Or not only that, you got to give me something to work with. And of course, the Ravens, there is potential that they'll trade for DeAndre Hopkins. They're up there like teams like the New England Patriots who want to make a move for a top wideout like him, who clearly isn't having great success in Arizona, considering that team is turning into a complete dumpster fire. The Ravens could end up like that too. And he doesn't want to be on the back end of that. And I don't blame him.
Yeah, and with Lamar Jackson, I mean, this is a guy, like you said. I mean, he's worth it. He's worth the money. He's showing he's elite. I really kind of goes back. A lot of it goes back to his MVP year 3 years ago. But
Mm-hmm.
in the day, I mean, this guy who's thrown over 100 touchdowns, less than 40 picks in the National Football League, has only surpassed 3,000 yards once. Sure, I mean, a lot of that's due to him missing the last 5 games each of the last 2 seasons. But at the end of the day, I mean, he's changed the game of football. He's changed the running quarterback. He's brought it back alive, rejuvenated the position of the mobile quarterback with back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons from a QB, which we've never seen before. Lamar Jackson did it in 2019 and 2020. This is a guy who, is going to go very slept on in future discussions about the history of pro football, I think. When we talk about the mobile quarterback, how the position was changed, how the game was changed as a result. And a lot of that's to with Lamar Jackson at the QB spot. Um, so I think you have to pay Lamar. You have to if you're the Ravens. It's the Ravens team with if Lamar is not on the roster next year, they have no clear future quarterback. Maybe the Pro Bowler Tyler Huntley will start at quarterback, even though he should never have been a Pro Bowler. But it's besides the point. Um, this Ravens team is objectively better around Lamar. They've built it around Lamar the last 3-4 years, and their whole offense is designed to make him or any other mobile quarterback be the best they can be. It's a run-heavy offense, run-first offense. I feel like that's part of the reason why they don't feel the need to get elite receivers. And it's hindered Lamar Jackson's success the last few years. They couldn't get one main target. I mean, they tried getting T.Y. Hill in the other year, he was kind of washed. So, I mean, wouldn't have been a big difference maker anyways in
Yeah.
2022 at least. But, this Ravens team is, I think if they don't sign Lamar Jackson, they'll be rebuilding for the next couple of years. And, you can argue Lamar's not worth the money. You can't pass. You can't do this. You can't win big games. But at the end of the day, he is a game changer. Lamar was in that playoff game against the Bengals this year. There's no doubt in my mind the Ravens could have won that game and probably would have. I mean, the Ravens were tied, and then Tyler Huntley fumbled the ball at the 2 yard line. It was a bad game for the Ravens. You can even see when the play callers are calling stuff that they really struggled to do so without Lamar Jackson at quarterback, which we saw with Tyler Huntley the last 4 or 5 games of the year. And I think if the Ravens don't Lamar Jackson next year, they're going to look a whole different team, a team that potentially could be the lowest scoring team in football next year without him at quarterback. So you got to sign this man. But if not, there's rumors. The biggest rumor on the board is they might go with the Jets, which would be a huge punch in the balls for the Pats. Tell you that. I mean,
Yeah.
having to face Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Tua 6 times a year. That would be tough for the boys. So
Absolutely. It would be a tough one to say the least. And when you kind of look at what the destination looks like for Lamar Jackson if he were to leave the Baltimore Ravens, if they can't get a contract through, the top potential landing spots, and a couple of these are interesting. One of these at number 5 is the New England Patriots. And then number 4, the Carolina Panthers. Number 3, the Miami Dolphins. 2, the Atlanta Falcons. And then number 1, the New York Jets. The Jets have the most to give in terms of getting a guy like this. Not only that, he would immediately set that team up, especially the way they performed this year, to without a doubt making a playoff push. This is a guy that we know when he goes to a team, he's the franchise quarterback. He's the guy. He's the guy to lead your team to the promised land, potentially. And he knows that. And I support, in a way, what he's doing. I think the Ravens are undervaluing him. And that's their own fault. They got some guys that they shouldn't have paid a ton of money for at the end of the day. And this is a guy they need to save up for, without a doubt. But then they didn't surround him with the weapons he needed. And this is where we are now. And then, of course, you've got the Pittsburgh Steelers that looked pretty good this year, despite having Kenny Pickett. I can only think that Kenny Pickett's going to get even better next year. And then you look at the most obvious, the elephant in the room, the Cincinnati Bengals. That is a team that is 100% going to run the North from this day forth, in my opinion. They've already proven that with back-to-back division titles. And then the Cleveland Browns, they have Deshaun Watson now. Deshaun Watson came back to play in week 13. And of course, or week 11.
It's our boy, Deshaun.
Yeah, our boy in quotations. But
we don't like this guy.
At the end of the day, the North is too talented already. The Ravens, at the end of the day, shouldn't have to scratch their heads and be like, what do we do here? It's like, pay the man. They've
been scratching their heads for the better part of the last year. I mean, this should have been obvious by now. Get Lamar Jackson. This is a team that's going to be picking 22nd in the draft, 21st in the draft this year. Not going to get any franchise quarterback at that point, probably. You never know, because Lamar got picked at 32, so you never know.
Yeah.
But he's kind of an exception to that. And I think that yes, this is a guy who's led you to 3 playoff berths in 4 years. No, 4 and 5 years, actually.
Yeah.
Remember, he took for Joe Flacco in 2018 on a 4-5 team, and they won 6 of their last 7 games. He's a game changer. That's why he's 45-16 as a starter in the National Football League. A 73% win percentage in the NFL. So, I think the big question for the Ravens is that, can he keep up with the powerhouses of the AFC, with the Mahomes, with the Allens, with the Joe Burrow of the AFC? And the answer to me right now is no. But if Lamar proves this all wrong, who would be surprised? This is a guy who just 3 years ago won the unanimous MVP of the National Football League. Unanimous. There's only been 2 of those ever. Lamar Jackson was one of them. So we can't forget how good he really is. Ravens have to pay this guy, but if they don't, whoever gets this guy, Lamar Jackson, will be a significantly changed team entering 2023. And I think it would absolutely eat the Ravens up for the next 10 to 15 years if they don't re-sign this kid.
It will. It will definitely be one of the most daunting memories for this franchise if they can't keep this guy, especially this young. The sky's the limit. At this point, the Ravens need to do something, whether it's signing a big-name guy just to lure him back or just paying him, because that's all he wants is a payday. And if he's not going to do it, there's plenty other teams out there that will, and he knows that. Lamar Jackson has all the leverage in the world in this situation, and the Ravens, it's almost like you'd think they'd be scared right now, but it's almost like they're not at all afraid, which is a very weird card to pull in this situation. But obviously, you don't want to show that to the public. But at the end of the day, they need him more than he needs them. That's the way it works.
Sure does. And the Ravens, you saw them without Lamar Jackson, in weeks 14 through 18. It's the team that averaged, I think it was 12 points per game the last 5 games of the year. Luckily for them, they had Tyler Huntley put on a show in the wild card weekend game against the Bengals. And before that, this thing was ugly. It was very ugly. So they definitely got to re-sign this kid and just ensure that they can contend the AFC the next few years.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's a lot that the Ravens need to do going forward. And of course, we'll see as time goes on. Once again, just like the Derek Carr situation, we'll see how things play out as the offseason is rapidly approaching us. Within the next month, we'll be talking a totally different league, but we'll have more NFL talk, obviously, but we're going to have to throw in other topics here just to kind of keep things afloat for now until the NFL offseason officially begins. But this is it. This is the last episode we'll have of the 2022 season. And it's crazy to think about.
But it is what it is, man. It happens.
Life must go on. Life must go on. And of course, Chet and Duffy will still continue to put out a ton of content. That's a great collage of just going through everything. Great moments from this year of everything this season.
That Evan Ingram 39-point fantasy game was nuts.
That was nuts. That was nuts to remember. Oh my goodness. All of these pictures, just great memories from the 2022 season. And we'll continue to talk more about football going forward. But until then, this is Unapologetic with Chet and Duffy, and Chet and Duffy signing off here, kissing the 2022 season goodbye officially. And very soon we'll be able to ring in the 2023 season. But until then, we'll catch you all in the next episode next week. And this is Chet and Duffy signing off. And as always, go Pats.
Peace.